Yo, what's good everyone? Your boy Deke back again with another vid, and I wanted to talk some NBA again. Obviously there's some rumors floating around about James Harden going to the Milwaukee Bucks. He added them as a potential destination on his trade list of teams he'd be willing to go to if he were traded. So it's the Bucks, the Heat, Brooklyn Nets, and the Philadelphia 76ers. I'll get into if I think the Bucks are actually a likely destination later in the video. But I kind of want to explain why, if I'm the Bucks, like, you need to do this trade. Opportunities like this don't come around that often, if ever. You already got an MVP caliber player on your team, and there's another one available. You know how the NBA is with these duos and combining stars together and what that means for your chances of winning a championship. This trade shows that you care, that you're willing to go all in, take the risk of building a championship team around Giannis. Think back to Toronto in 2018. They had a team where, great regular season team. I think maybe one or two of those seasons they had the most wins in the regular season, but they couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. LeBron and the Cavs trounced them every time. I think they swept them every time. So 2018 comes around. You know, you did this rodeo 4 or 5 times already. DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry. You could go back and say, hey, let's give our fans false hope. We think we could maybe win a championship here, but in reality, you're not. You're going to get bounced in the playoffs again. You're going to have a good regular season. You're going to have a cute little run, but let's be real. You weren't winning a championship. So what do? Kawhi Leonard is available. Top 6, 7 talent in the league, for sure. Toronto is not even on his trade list, and he's only on a 1-year contract. So there's high risk in this where they give up DeMar DeRozan, an all-star, a nice piece to the team, a staple to the Raptors up to this point, and they bring in Kawhi Leonard, who is definitely a better player, but how's it going to work in Toronto? Is he going to be happy that he's there? Is he going to play his heart out? Is it even going to be a fit? So you have, one, the risk of that season not going well at all with Kawhi Leonard being your best player just because he's going to be unhappy to be there. It's not one of the teams on his list. And then 2, you might lose an all-star in DeMar DeRozan for nothing because Kawhi Leonard could walk the next offseason. But if that's what it takes to win a championship, you take that risk, and that's what they did. Obviously, some things went in their favor with the Warriors getting hurt, the shot at the end of the game against the 76ers, but this stuff doesn't happen if you don't take that chance. There was a 0% chance you were winning a championship with DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry and the team as it was constructed. But at least, man, maybe there's some potential if we bring in Kawhi Leonard. Maybe he likes it here. Maybe he wants to stay, and that's eventually what happened. It was down to between the Clippers and the Raptors where before that trade happened, the Raptors were not on his radar at all, and you could tell from his press conference he was not too thrilled to be up in Toronto. But he almost re-signed there. He almost won the championship and re-signed there. That's what happens when you take a risk and you try to win a championship. These windows are so small in the NBA. Think of the Warriors. Man, you thought that was going to go on forever, but it only really lasted, 4 or 5 years? And they got lucky with Durant signing there even, too. So I just think it shows that you're really serious about building a contender around Giannis, because that's one of the things that he's probably going to be looking at when he thinks about signing the max extension, or even after this offseason, if he's going to test free agency and maybe go to another team. It's, did you guys build the best team or really go all in for me and try to build a contender here? And if you bring in James Harden, I think there's no question to that. Now, there is a failure element, there is a risk element, but at least you could say you tried, man. I think if you just go in with how the team's constructed right now, I don't know if you could say that. I really don't. I mean, I know you tried bringing in Drew Holiday and pairing him with Bogdanovich. Maybe that would have elevated you a little bit, but I do think there are still problems on this team that need fixed, and I think James Harden could do that for you. And when I talk about the flaws, it's, you could tell late in games they didn't have a guy that they could trust to get shots off, create their own shot, go to the line, and kind of close out a game for them. Giannis could carry a team for, most of the game, but when it would come down to those last few minutes, trying to create his own shot, defenses would know what he was doing. He's going to be driving to the hoop, and he wouldn't have the best success. You got to have someone that's able to create their own shot, that's able to get to the line, someone you could trust. And I think James Harden could do that for you. As much as people want to knock him and stuff about just some of his erratic play over the years, and him failing in the playoffs and whatnot. If you pair him with Giannis, man, I think that's a really good combo. They almost fit each other's weaknesses in a way. With James Harden, one, I don't even think he's like that bad of a defender. I think he was underrated in the bubble. But you have Giannis. It's almost like, it'd almost be, in my opinion, it could be, potentially. I'm not going to go off the rails here and say it would be this. But it could be like a Kobe Shaq light version. I mean, with Harden and Giannis in this new style of basketball. The Bucks are a high-volume shooting team too. I think that could play into Harden's favor as well. I like the fit. I would be interested to see how that would work. And then also just consider too how the NBA is right now. It's very star-driven. It's very much based off duos, getting two of the best players in the league together. You think Jamal Murray, Jokic, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Obviously Thompson's not going to be there. KD, Kyrie, Jimmy Butler. I don't really know who the second guy is down there in Miami. Maybe you say Bam, maybe you say Hero. Maybe that's more of a big three, or like a one and like a smaller duo, however you want to consider that. But who won the championship last year? LeBron and AD. What would you say? You'd say two top 3 players, 2 top 5 players in the NBA. And in this case, you would be damn close to that with Harden and Giannis. And then if you're Giannis, this is kind of like a win-win for you, because one, you get to show the loyalty. You get to stay with Milwaukee. And it seems like from some of the interviews that he's had that he wants to stay. Milwaukee took a chance on him. Like, he wants to kind of show that gratitude. At the same time, he does want to win. So in this case, you get the loyalty. You get to stay in Milwaukee. You get to give them more of a chance. Not necessarily you have to sign the max extension or anything. Maybe you just stay on for another 2 or 3 years and see how things play out. But at least you give them more time. And then on the other hand, like, how would you write this up better outside of maybe you joining up with Luka? Like, what other duo would you want in the league? You're not going to be joining forces with LeBron and AD. You're not joining forces with KD. So, like, who else is out there that you would pick? So you get James Harden in Milwaukee. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there if you're Giannis. Now, you don't have to sign the max extension or anything. Why not just sign like a 1-and-1, kind of like what LeBron has done in the past, what KD has done in the past with the Warriors. So I think it could definitely work for Giannis if he's going to be flexible with kind of his contract and what he's going to be doing in the future. So the question is, do we actually think this is possible for the Bucks to do? The thing that's in their favor, in my opinion, I don't know how much it is in their favor, but Houston has new ownership. They're trying to build a new culture. They brought in a new coach. They have a bunch of new players that they brought in. And they're trying to just get a fresh start, it seems. Whereas Harden, once out, he's very unhappy. I would guess that they're thinking it's probably better to trade him sooner rather than later, just so we can ease into this fresh start, this new identity, whatever it is. The thing is, Harden has 4 teams on his list. Now, is Houston just going to stick strictly to those 4 teams, or are they going to go outside of that? Let's say they stick to those 4 teams that Harden requests. Because, let's put it this way, the players have a lot of power right now. Like, if a team doesn't think a player is interested in them, they're not really going to try to trade for them outside of Toronto. And that's, like I said, Kawhi wasn't even interested in them. And a team could sneak up on us. Maybe it's the Kings, or maybe some random team could try to trade for Harden. But my point is, the Bucks are on his list. So that even makes it so much more like, dude, you gotta try to do this. He wants to come to your team and try to win a championship with Giannis up there. So let's just go with the 4 teams on the list. And I think this is another thing that plays into the Bucks' favor. So the Heat, they already said they're not giving up Tyler Hero. So I don't even know who else they would trade to try to get James Harden. Would they trade Bam? They just signed him to an extension. So I don't even know who the Heat could give up to get Harden if they're not willing to give up Tyler Hero. So I think they're out. The Nets, there's a report that just came out that Houston's not willing to deal with the Nets unless they can get KD or Kyrie back in a trade. So I think they're out. Next is the 76ers. I just don't think the 76ers are going to be willing to trade Ben Simmons. Now, if they trade Ben Simmons for James Harden, you're the Rockets, you need to do that immediately. Obviously, the 76ers brought in Daryl Morey as their GM, so there is that connection right there. But with the Bucks, I mean, there's been nothing out there where it's saying Houston's not willing to do this or this with the Bucks right now. I just don't know if they have the assets. Like, what are they going to be willing to give up? I was doing some research, and a Milwaukee Bucks broadcaster was saying you could just do Chris Middleton and DJ Wilson, and the contracts would work perfectly. But that's not enough for Harden, let's be real. So they might have to throw in, I don't know if they would have to do some type of combo where it's Drew Holiday maybe. You combine him with Chris Middleton, and then you get James Harden back with maybe a couple role players from Houston or something like that. Got to throw a pick in too, even though they gave up a bunch of picks for Drew Holiday. So it's somewhat possible if you consider, like I said, the new ownership, the new culture, the new coach, the new players, and then probably just wanting to move on from James Harden. Plus the fact that the other 3 teams on the list, I don't think they're in serious consideration for any trade for James Harden right now. There could be a sleeper pick. Like I said, is it going to be the Kings or someone that's not on his list that swoops in and they trade some of their young talent, which would probably make more sense to Houston than anything the Bucks would be offering. So that is definitely a possibility as well. I don't know how much they're going to be looking to James Harden list as like, all right, we got to trade him to one of these 4 teams. This is probably the only way this is going to work. So if you're Milwaukee, you got to try to make this thing happen. So let me know what you guys think. Should Milwaukee try to trade for James Harden? What would they need to give up for James Harden? Do you think the fit would work up in Milwaukee with him and Giannis? But yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the vid. Stay chillin' and peace.